This is the Your Career Story podcast, and you're listening to episode 62, 3 Steps to Ensure You're Making the Right Career Move. Welcome to Your Career Story podcast, a show that's designed for rockstar professionals looking for that extra booster shot of confidence in their careers. Whether you're trying to get clarity on a job transition, want some work-life balance inspiration, or need a strategy to snag that promotion or raise, this podcast is for you. I'm your host, Jena, ex-Wall Streeter turned startup junkie who now coaches hundreds of clients, empowering them to take back control of the job search and land their dream job. So sit back, grab a glass of wine, and prepare yourself for your weekly boost of career confidence. Hello, friends, and welcome back to another episode of the Your Career Story podcast. I am super pumped to have you here. Today, we are talking about a popular subject that I keep on hearing floating around on LinkedIn and just with my clients, asking the question, am I making the right career move? So not just is now the right time, but am I going to make the right career move? There's a lot of panic. There's a lot of frustration. There's a lot of confusion around what is the right career move. So I want to first before we start into the 3 steps to ensure you're making the right one for you, I want to talk a little bit about the problem of the idea of being right. So I think actually a really perfect way to segue into this and a way to think about it and how it's actually impacting me in my personal life right now is a lot of you know that I am getting married this year. And with planning a wedding, there are a lot of opinions about the right way to do this or the wrong way to do that when it relates to a wedding. There's a lot of people that come out of the woodwork and give you their opinions, whether you want it or not. If you've been married before or you've gone through the process of planning a wedding, you know that this is true. I'm getting opinions about the right way to label an envelope or the wrong way to welcome people or to not welcome people or to have people or to make sure your bouquet looks a certain way. There are so many quote unquote right ways to do everything within a wedding, which to me is so very frustrating. As women, in general, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to do the right quote unquote thing. Maybe it's the right diet or mother in the right way or say the right thing. This idea of right has infiltrated our culture and has infiltrated us as women to be very black and white with the way that we look at things. And we try to constantly strategize and figure it out and make sure we're doing things quote unquote right in order to not rock the boat. Is this making sense? Is anyone else resonating with this? So we spend so much of our time strategizing on the exact precise way to do this or that we end up paralyzing ourselves and actually don't make any progress moving forward. We're spending so much of our time worrying about doing it the right way, whoever decided the right way is the right way, and with it, we don't actually make any progress. And our careers really, really are no different. So I want you to pause a little bit. And I want you to think about these kind of phrases or these things that I often hear when somebody is actually really being paralyzed by this idea of right as it relates to their career. So the internal narrative can go something like this. I'm scared that this next job will ruin my career. That's a fear of making the wrong move, right? So the fear that comes up is I'm scared that this next job will ruin my career. Or another thing that you may be thinking of is, what if I don't like this next job as much as I hate my current one? So what if I don't like this one as much as I hate my current one? What if? That's puts a lot of pressure on you to make the right career move. Something else that you might be thinking is, I'm just scared of making a change. Or I'm fearing that I will have a lack of stability. Especially in this coronavirus time, I hear that a lot. Like, I need to make sure I'm making the right career move, Jena, so that I can feel safe and secure. Another question I'm getting or another comment that I'm getting is, what if I realize I don't want to be doing this either? So we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to figure out the next right thing, because if we don't, we're going to be unhappy. And then there's this whole snowball down the hill, right? Or what if this looks bad on my resume? What if no one wants to hire me after this? Or what if? There's a lot of what ifs, right? So we are stuck as women, typically, in this kind of analysis paralysis. And this happens for men too. Just hear me when I say that, but I'm speaking to you ladies right now. This is a really common thing where women will not make a move in their career until they're 125% sure that they have their own approval, the approval of everybody else, and that they get 15 other people's opinions before they move forward. Is this resonating with anybody? So I want to pull you out of that. And I want to talk a little bit about there are no exact one right way to do your career. And we're going to talk about how to think about making a right career move in 3 specific steps. So I just want to first clear up the fact that there is no one right path. I did not go the quote unquote right path in my career and I turned out just fine. You may not be doing the same thing that you were doing, for your major in college. You may not be doing that now. That's okay. It's normal. It's pretty much 99% of people are like that. So if you're fearing and not making a move because you don't want to mess up your career, or you're fearful of making the right career move, and you just really want to know what that one thing is, and you're looking for the answer for it, you're probably not going to find it. So I just want to say that first. We're going to talk about 3 different steps, though, I want you to take to ensure that you're making the right career move for you. So the title of this should actually have been 3 steps you're making the right career move for you. Not for the world, not for your parents, not for your coworkers, for you. So I want you to take stock. So step 1 is getting clarity. And to ensure that you're making the right career move for you, you got to make sure that you are getting super crystal clear on what do you want. So many of my women do not know how to do this. When I ask them the question, what do they want? They think that they know the answer, but when they really start to dive into some of the work that I have them do in the Recruit the Employer course, they realized that they actually had no clue what they really wanted. They were just meandering along. It's okay if that's you. That's a lot of people because you were never given the opportunity to pause and really discern for yourself, is this what I actually want to be doing? That's why I think the coronavirus actually has created this space for people, specifically in their careers for women, to discern, do I actually want to be doing what I'm doing? Do I want to go back to work whenever we're allowed to go back to the office, right? I think you're having a lot of people that are questioning that. So in order to understand if you're making the right career move for you, you need to first get clarity on what you want in your career, where you want to go, and how to get there, right? So clarity is kind. We need to be kind with ourselves because what often happens when we're feeling really disconnected in our career is that we don't have a true north. We aren't very clear on what we want and what we can offer to the world. So we have to figure that information out first before we even get to all the other different options. So here's some questions that you can ask yourself when you're getting into the clarity stage. And we go into this way more in depth in the Recruit the Employer program that really highlights more of these questions to help you really unpack and journal through and let it be fun, right? Getting clarity doesn't have to be some big stressful thing. Getting clarity should be fun. It should be an opportunity for you to dream again in your career. So here are some questions that you can write down for yourself. Maybe you have a morning quiet time. Maybe you do this after work, or maybe you want to take a break in the middle of your day. These are some questions that you can journal through to get some clarity in your career. The first one is, what is the kind of lifestyle that I want? Sometimes different career paths equal different lifestyles. Right? So when I was in investment banking, that was a very unique lifestyle that actually looking back, I did want that lifestyle. Some people thrive in that environment. That was not me. That's not the lifestyle I wanted. One of the reasons why I got into entrepreneurship is I really, really enjoyed the freedom and flexibility. And quite frankly, that's not for everybody either. So there's different ends of the spectrum. So you need to figure out what is the kind of lifestyle you want. If you could dream up your perfect lifestyle, what would that look like and why? And don't kind of, censor it to be like, oh, that's not possible. Just write it out. Just allow yourself to write it out for 5 minutes. It'll be fun. I promise. The second question is, what do I want to be doing? So a lot of people maybe got a degree in engineering and they realize actually they're a creative. So for me, I got a degree in finance and I realized I'm actually just very much a creative. I am not really a finance girl. I don't like the numbers. I don't like Excel. Like all of that stuff just does not work for me. So I had to ask myself early in my career, what do I actually want to be doing? Because here's the deal. You are the only one that shows up for work every day. Your parents don't show up for work every day for you. Your spouse doesn't. Your kids don't. Your other coworkers don't. You show up for work every day. That is what you are doing. You are living 90,000 hours typically on the average person spends at work is 90,000 hours. If you don't like what you're doing, that's a problem. You're wasting 90,000 hours of your life. No, we don't want that. Now, is there always going to be a perfect job 24/7? Of course not. Of course, that's not going to be the case. But I want you to get really clear on what do you want to be doing? And these are questions that you need to revisit back anytime you're feeling like an urge to potentially make a change. You need to be asking yourself these questions. So first one is, what is the kind of lifestyle I want? Second question is, what do I want to be doing? Third question is, where do I want to live? This is a big question. I know that for myself, I did not enjoy living in New York City. There were seasons of it that I loved, and I loved the friends that I've met there and the experiences I got professionally, but I knew long term that was never the goal. And so I started to make moves and started to really evaluate the Nashville area and understand what were the opportunities there. Could I have my own business there? Let's say if that failed, who else could I work for potentially there? And so for me, the place is actually a very important piece of the puzzle. If you want to be in fashion, let's just use this as an example, and you live in Arkansas, you probably need to move to a bigger city, right? So this is all part of the career, the lifestyle associated with is much more cohesive than you think. So that's the third question, is where do I want to live? The fourth question is, what type of salary do I want to be making? And so this can be a twofold question. The first part of it is like, what do I want to be making now? And being honest with yourself about what the market rate is. Where most people go wrong with this question is they'll say, well, of course I want to be making $1 million, but you also have to be reasonable with what is the market rate and then go maybe a little smidge higher. So thinking about what is the type of salary that I want to be making? Am I in the career that's going to afford me that lifestyle and afford me that salary that I want? Some people really would love to work in a nonprofit environment, but actually they realize and were honest with themselves that making a certain amount of money was actually more important to them than working for a nonprofit at this time in their life, because maybe they have kids and they have other responsibilities, and it was more important for that. So you just have to be honest with yourself about where you are now, and then also what you want to be making. So I think about this all the time in my business. What am I making? What do I want to be making now? And then where do I want to be? What will be enough, quote unquote, enough in 5 years and 10 years? And what do I want that to look like? And how do I start strategizing in my business to make sure that that happens? The same thing can be true. We teach women in Recruit the Employer how to do this, how to negotiate your salary, and then how to position yourself internally so that you can make those quarter turns to be making more money over time. We teach women how to do this because women don't negotiate. That's a whole other conversation we can have on a different day. And the last question I want you to ask yourself when getting clarity, that's step one to ensure that you're making the right career move for you, is who do you want to work with? So there's a great quote. There's a great quote that says you are the combination of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And so I think this holds true in jobs as well. So for me, I was really, really attracted to certain companies because of the people that worked there. And because I believe that your network is what makes or breaks your career, and we also talk about this in Recruit the Employer of how to build a network, how to get yourself in front of the right people. I was just always interested in learning from individuals that maybe have gone before me, that had interesting career paths themselves, that I could learn from. And so I would position myself for companies that offered that. Right? The New York Stock Exchange, you had all these companies that were IPOing when I worked there. That was an amazing place. I wanted to work alongside those people. And I didn't apologize for that. So I want you to also think about, who are the people that I want to work alongside? What are their qualities? What do they care about? What are they interested in? What do I want to learn from them? Or what experience have they had in the past? Ask yourself those questions. It's going to help you discern, what do I want in my career? The first step to figuring out what the next move is to figure out what you want first. Switching jobs can be a very confusing process. Is now the right time? Is it too soon? How do you make sure you do it without burning bridges? What if there's a downturn in the economy? Is it still smart to explore new opportunities? While everybody's story is a bit different, there are some key red alarms that will help guide you as you discern if a career move makes sense for you. Sometimes you don't need to overthink a decision, but just decide to move forward. I've created a handy-dandy guide to help you discern if now is the right time to start looking elsewhere. Head on over to www.jenaviviano.com/change to snag my guide, 6 ways to know it's the right time to change jobs. In this guide, I'll walk you through how to understand your motivations for moving jobs, tips on how to start exploring a new move, examples of when not to move, and journal prompts to help you see where you're actually stuck. Again, head on over to www.jenaviviano.com/change to get your guide today and see if a job change is on the horizon for you. When you're done with the guide, reach out to me on LinkedIn. I can't wait to hear what you figured out. All right, back to the episode. And the other question that I get from people kind of on that clarity piece is the question around when. So, am I going to make the right career move? Okay, now that I know what the things that I want, when is the right time to do that? And so I've been getting a lot of questions around with the coronavirus and with the economy, and is now the right time to find a new job and da-da-da-da. So we actually created a freebie just for you to figure out if now is the right time for you to start to exploring a career move. So you can just go to www.geneviviano.com/change, and you can get a copy of that free guide of six reasons that now is the right time to change jobs. So 6 reasons that now is the time to change jobs. You need to check that out at geneviviano.com/change, because that's going to give you an idea of, is now the right time to be doing that? So step 1 is to get clarity. Step 2 is letting go of the expectation of perfection. So we briefly talked about this already, but I really want to drive this message home for you. There is no magic right career move for everybody, right? Everybody has different skill sets. Everybody was born with different capabilities. Everybody has different life experiences. There is no one magic right career move. There just isn't. And here's how I look at career pathing. Career pathing is more like cooking than baking. Baking is very precise. If you put in a tablespoon of baking soda versus a teaspoon of baking soda, you're going to have a much different product, right? Cooking is more artistic. It's less of a science, right? So it's a little bit of this, a little bit of that, put it all together, out comes something really tasty. That is how you need to be thinking about your career path. It is not like baking. It is in fact like cooking. And things can be moved and to be shaped and to be added and subtracted in order to bring out different flavors. And so for you and your career, it's okay for it not to look quote unquote traditional, which isn't a real thing anymore, right? And careers are more like roller coasters than they are ladders. So we've been told this narrative that you need to go up the career ladder. That's just not the case anymore. More and more people are having careers that are more like roller coasters than ladders. We have industries that have started, in the past 10 years that were not there the past 20 years. I mean, look at the whole entire technology sector. Everything in social media really started 10, 15 years ago, and we didn't have it 20, 30 years ago. It is okay for your career to feel a little bit, quote unquote, disjointed and less linear than you expected it to be when you were in college. No one told you in college that when you get into the real world, there's no pathing. You have to create your own path. And so that can feel really overwhelming for us. And then we just start to take whatever comes our way because we're so used to people telling us where we're supposed to be. Anyone tracking here? So when you're in elementary school, you go to middle school. When you go to middle school, you go to high school. When you go to high school, you typically go to a 4-year college education. Some of you go on to secondary education, and then the cycle continues. But when you get into the real world, there is no clear path. So it can feel really overwhelming, because we've been programmed our whole lives to believe that someone's going to tell us what to do next. Here's the scary and beautiful thing. There is no perfect pathway, so you get to decide where you want to go to next and expect that your career is going to have more ups and downs and twists and turns like a roller coaster versus a straight ladder up. It's just not the way that it used to be in the 50s, in the 60s. Okay. So there's no such thing as the perfect job, the perfect career, the perfect life. There's no such thing. And when you start to get really comfortable with that, it's going to make your life a lot easier. I know that for myself, I really struggled with this early on in my career, where I felt like a failure because I quit investment banking. I felt very disjointed because I moved from, this financial firm at the New York Stock Exchange to working into a startup. And I felt like I was doing maybe something wrong until I realized that it was my job and my responsibility to take back control of my career. And I didn't need to wait for everybody else to give me validation, for everybody else to give me permission, or everybody else to tell me what to do next. I had to decide that for myself. And once I started doing that in my career, that's when I actually started enjoying my career and my life. So for you, I want you to get over this expectation that you're going to find perfection, because that is going to be a carrot that keeps on going in front of you and in front of you, and you're going to keep on chasing it and you're never going to reach it. So allow yourself to release that unattainable expectation to be perfect. It is not real. So here's what I want you to do. If you feel like, okay, Jenna, yeah, I totally think that I have probably that expectation that I'm going to have a perfect career, and I'm really down on myself because I feel like, coronavirus, I'm now laid off and now I feel like I'm worthless, or my career is like all the way over here and I really wanted it to be all the way over there, and now I just don't know what to do. I want you to look under the hood and identify and determine where those feelings and expectations of the certain brand of perfection you have in your brain, because everybody has their own, where does that stem from? Does it stem from your parents and their expectations? Does it stem from your friends and peer pressure and what you think everyone else is doing over here? I see that a lot with the younger generation of everyone thinks they need to go work for a startup now. That is not the perfect career. Works for some people, doesn't work for everybody. That's another one. Is it culture? Is culture telling you you need to Have your dream job, your first job out of school, right? Or is it that you have to look a certain way and success looks like this particular way? Is culture telling you that you need to reach a certain brand of perfectionism? Was it your professors? Is it old colleagues? I've told this story before. I was really, really nervous to launch my blog at the time because I was worried what my investment banking past colleagues would think of me. And so I avoided posting anything for a really long time because I was worried that they were going to judge me because I wanted them to think that I was perfect in my own way, right? So maybe it's your old colleagues that stemming from this like unattainable perfectionism you want to achieve. Or maybe it's past bosses. I see this a lot with people who come from really toxic relationships with their bosses where they have basically been told they're terrible. And so it takes them a long time to actually get out of that narrative and get out of believing that they're really bad at what they're doing. And so typically when we have really toxic relationships and people are telling us how we should be, we start to believe them. And so then we try to chase that version of perfectionism in order to please them. And then we're just never pleasing ourselves, right? So I want you to ask yourselves the question, where is this stemming from? Where is this idea of perfectionism? What is my brand of perfectionism that I'm trying to achieve? And who is that coming from? Because it's probably not coming from your internal compass. Most likely not. It's usually coming from, other people. Here's what I want you to be more worried about. I want you to be more worried about your unfulfilled potential more than meeting some weird standard of perfectionism. So I want you to be more concerned about how you're not reaching that unfulfilled potential that you have inside of you more than some perfectionism. And what I mean by that is typically when we have this version of perfectionism in our brain, it's actually holding us back from the things that we were meant to do. So for me, when I was trying to live this perfect finance life and I was going to, make all the money and do all the things, right? And live that New York life, I really realized that I'm just much more creative. I really enjoy writing. I really enjoy teaching and speaking. And I didn't see a pathway for that yet, but I started to move and to accept that that was really who I am. So that was the first step of getting that clarity and understanding. And the second was I started to remove the kind of weight that I had about what a perfect career looked like for me. And I had to shed a lot of those expectations other people had put on me and that I had subsequently put on myself. And then I got more concerned that I was not actually fulfilling my potential, my capabilities, than I was about achieving some perfect thing that didn't really exist. The other thing that I want you to think about is that if you're too worried about perfectionism, it is a surefire way, 100% of the time, you are going to lean into procrastination and inaction. And let me tell you something, sitting still never got me anywhere. If I am stuck in my business or in my career, or quite frankly in life, I know that I have to keep moving. And sometimes surrendering isn't necessarily inaction. So some people will be like, well, Jena, you say to surrender certain things and to like, let it go. Isn't that just like not moving? Like, isn't that just staying stuck? No, actually, in fact, that is an action in and of itself. So if you need to surrender to the job search process, if you need to surrender your singleness, that was my story in my personal life, whatever it is, that is still an action. It's still a resignation of a letting down, releasing something to pick something else back up, right? So for you, I want you to release this and surrender this idea of perfectionism and start to take up this next step, which is to go for it. Okay, so step 1 is, again, get clarity. Step 2 is letting go of the expectation of perfection. And the third step is to just go for it. Do a Nike and just do it, right? Stop waiting for permission. I think a lot of you are looking for somebody else to tell you what to do. And, you could get a bunch of people's opinions, but they're all going to give you different opinions, right? So it's a similar thing. Like if you give somebody your resume, you give 5 people your resume, every single one of them are going to give you edits because 1, they want to make sure that they feel valuable. And 2, they're going to give you edits because you asked them to. So the similar thing is if you're asking everybody for what you should do with your life, you're never going to actually do anything because you're just waiting for everybody else to tell you. So stop waiting for that permission to make a move. If you believe that it is time to make a move and you've maybe gone through that freebie to see like what are some of the reasons that maybe some people would decide that now is the right time to make a move, and you're worried about making the specific move that we're talking about here today, your job is to stop waiting for everybody else to tell you what to do, and that it's your job to actually take that first step forward. So my mantra is before you're ready, you should actually leap. One of the perfect ways that I have done that, or not perfect, but one of the best examples I can give of that is when I was transitioning, working in a 9-to-5 capacity to launching my side hustle into the full-time. So I did not at that time. My side hustle was not making my exact salary as my full-time position, but I had this feeling that it was the right thing I should be doing. It was kind of this intuition that if I did it full-time, I could definitely make whatever I was making in my past job. Plus I was moving from New York to Nashville, which is a better lifestyle and it's cheaper to live here. So my suggestion to you is that before you're ready, leap. Don't wait for all the little pieces to come into play. You need to start making action and then more things will come along your way. Here's the other thing. Just because you start looking for a new job, right? So a lot of you are thinking about, okay, now is the right time to change. I'm going to start exploring new jobs. Oh my gosh, I can't do it because I'm worried that I can't make that move right now. What if it's a terrible job? You go back to those things that we talked about in the beginning, all of those negative emotions that you're having. So here's what I want you to remember. Just because you start looking doesn't mean you have to accept the job offer. I have a lot of people that will get way ahead of themselves instead of staying in the present and realize they have one thing in front, put one foot in front of the other, right? So if you're getting really overwhelmed about taking a job offer because of XYZ reasons, just know that you looking doesn't mean you've already accepted the job offer. So free yourself of the expectation that you have to take the next job that you are given an offer for. You don't have to do that. And so that goes into a whole conversation around scarcity and abundance and even more conversations around how do you discern what is a good opportunity for you, the specific opportunity, which we talk about in Recruit the Employer and helping women make those decisions. But just because you're looking doesn't mean you have to accept the offer. So you're allowed to look because you are an asset to a company and they would be lucky to have you. And if it doesn't make sense for you, that's okay as well. So I want you just to remember that you do not have to accept an offer if you are given it. So you're just having that first piece of the puzzle is just you figuring out, do I want to start looking for a new opportunity? And here's the deal. Let's say that you get into this new position and you just went for it and you accepted an offer. You did get an offer, you accepted it, you were really excited about it, and you realize it's a really crappy company to work for. This happens to people. It happens because maybe it's partially your fault. You didn't ask enough questions in the beginning, or you just took something because you were desperate, whatever. Or maybe it was just like you were sold a bag of tricks and they lied to you. Like that happens as well. So here's the deal. Even if that happens, you can still make the most of that situation no matter what. You will always be learning something and be able to take away something from that experience. So don't have regrets in your career. Only have things that you can think about of what did I learn from this experience? How is this going to equip me better in the future? And how can I speak to that potentially in an interview in a way that's kind and compelling? So even if, let's say, the worst case scenario happens and you make this change and it's not quote unquote the right move, doesn't mean you made the wrong move. It just means it wasn't the right thing for you right now because of what you learned in that situation. So I want you to not stress yourself out about making a quote unquote wrong decision. Just make a decision and move forward because you're always going to learn from that. You're always going to learn from that. And that one opportunity is not going to derail your career forever. That's the other thing. Don't think that like one career decision is going to derail you for your entire life. It's just not the case. I see it happen time and time again. People reinvent themselves. It is okay. And the other last thing that I kind of want to touch on of the going for it is listen to your intuition, listen to your gut. That is a real thing I think specifically even for women, where we have this knowing, I don't know how else to describe it, just a knowing that something should or shouldn't be. Listen to that voice. It's 99.9% of the time never wrong. And when I think about times in my life, personally or professionally, when I didn't listen to that gut instinct, I really wish I would have. Instead, I listened to my mind and the knowledge piece, and I thought through it and strategized and asked everybody else's opinion. That's when things didn't go well. But when I listened to my gut and my instinct, even when it didn't make sense in the natural, it always worked out for my benefit. So I just want to encourage you that if you have a knowing or an intuition about something with a job, listen to that. I tell it to all of my women that go through Recruit the Employer. They've got a couple offers on the table and they're like, which one should I go with, Jena? And instead of rationalizing through the pro-con list, I say, what's your gut feeling? And when they tell me their gut feeling, I say, listen to that. Because I'm not in their body, right? But they have a knowing, even if it doesn't quote unquote make sense or not make sense, whatever that may look like for them, they have a knowing. And so they need to listen to that. So hopefully this was helpful in thinking through what are the 3 steps to ensure you're making the right career move for you. So first step is to get clarity. Second step is let go of the expectation of perfection. And third step is to go for it. Just go for it. Make a decision and move forward. Now, here's the only time that you're going to make a bad career move. And I will leave you with this, is if you are choosing an opportunity out of desperation and running away from something versus running towards something in excitement. So if you are making a career move and it is purely out of desperation, you're taking a new opportunity, that's probably the only time you're going to make a wrong career move, is when you're taking something out of desperation and not out of excitement. So that is just something to chew on. Hopefully that was really helpful for you. We would love, if you've been listening to this podcast, to give us a review. It really helps us get into the forefront and let other people see the podcast, hear about the podcast, share it with your friends. And then also, please always connect with me on LinkedIn. Tell me that you're a listener of the podcast, how it's been helpful to you and what your biggest takeaway was. And I will see you next week. Hey, y'all. Thanks so much for listening to Your Career Story podcast. I would love to get to meet you. And there are a couple of ways that we can connect in between episodes. First and foremost, I love my LinkedIn. Second is via Instagram. And third is over on my website. I actually have a special spot just for you full of fun, free resources. So all you have to do is go to www.jenaviviano.com/resources. Super simple, for a bunch of freebies that will help you boost your career. Hope to see you next week.